The 5,000-year-old secret behind Jack and the Beanstalk. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where in the world you're joining me. Today we embark on an extraordinary journey, one that will fundamentally alter your perception of a story you thought you knew. For generations, Jack and the Beanstalk has been a beloved children's tale. A whimsical narrative of a boy, a magical bean, a towering plant, and a giant in the clouds. We chuckle at the fee-fo-fum, and we cheer for Jack's triumph. But what if I told you that beneath this seemingly innocent facade lies a secret? A secret not merely centuries old, but millennia. A narrative thread so ancient, so deeply embedded in the collective human psyche that it predates recorded history, echoing through the mists of time from an era when monumental structures were first rising from the earth, when the very fabric of civilization was being woven. This isn't just a fairy tale. It's a whisper from our distant past, a coded message hinting at forgotten beliefs, lost technologies, and a cosmic understanding that has been systematically obscured. Prepare to see Jack's adventure not as fiction, but as a symbolic echo of humanity's most profound and enduring quest. For too long, folktales have been relegated to the nursery, dismissed as charming fictions designed solely for entertainment or simple moral instruction. Yet, to view them through such a narrow lens is to profoundly misunderstand their true nature and their immense historical significance. Anthropology, comparative mythology, even archaeology are increasingly revealing that these narratives, passed down orally through countless generations before ever being committed to parchment, are far more than mere stories. They are, in essence, cultural repositories. They are time capsules, meticulously crafted and resiliently preserved vessels containing the collective wisdom, fears, aspirations, and even the scientific or astronomical observations of ancient peoples. Consider for a moment the astonishing durability of these tales. An age devoid of written language, mass media, or digital storage. How did complex narratives manage to survive for hundreds, even thousands of years, migrating across continents, adapting to new languages and customs, yet retaining core elements with uncanny precision? This resilience isn't accidental. It speaks to a profound purpose beyond simple amusement. Folktales served as mnemonic devices, memory palaces for entire societies. They encoded vital information, lessons on survival, warnings against natural dangers, explanations for celestial phenomena, and intricate social codes. They were the original educational platforms, the earliest forms of mass communication, and often the most accessible form of spiritual and philosophical discourse. When we approach Jack and the Beanstalk from this perspective, as a potential repository of ancient knowledge, its seemingly fantastical elements begin to take on new dimensions. The magic beans, for instance. Are they merely a whimsical plot device? Or do they symbolize something tangible, something potent? Perhaps even something biological or agricultural that was of paramount importance to our ancestors. The concept of a plant growing rapidly to connect earth and sky. Is this a pure fantasy or a symbolic representation of an actual phenomenon? Or even a technological aspiration that has been forgotten? And then there is the giant, the antagonist, the fearsome other residing above the clouds. Giants populate the mythologies of nearly every culture across the globe, from the Norse Jotnar to the Greek Titans. The biblical Nephilim and indigenous American folklore. Are these ubiquitous figures simply products of an overactive imagination, or do they echo a shared, perhaps traumatic, memory of a race of beings, or a type of power dynamic that existed in a bygone era? The consistent portrayal of these beings is powerful, often destructive, and possessing vast wealth or unique knowledge. Demands a deeper investigation than mere mythological archetypes. The very structure of the Jack and the Beanstalk narrative also bears the hallmarks of a profound oral tradition. The repetitive phrases, the clear hero's journey arc, the distinct episodes, these are not accidental. They are structural elements designed for memorization and transmission, ensuring the integrity of the story as it passed from generation to generation. Every element, every character, every location, potentially holds a symbolic weight, an encoded piece of information that, when deciphered, can illuminate facets of our shared human history that mainstream archaeology and history often overlook. Our task, then, is to move beyond the superficial charm of Jack and the Beanstalk and delve into its deeper strata. We must treat it not as a simple children's story, but as a complex historical document, a Rosetta Stone waiting to be translated. We will apply the tools of comparative mythology, historical linguistics, and even archaic symbolism to unearth the layers of meaning embedded within its familiar narrative. What were the original beans? What did the beanstalk truly represent? Who was the giant, and what did his cloud kingdom signify? By asking these questions, and by systematically dismantling the popular perception of the tale, we begin to unlock not just the secrets of a single fairy tale, but potentially the secrets of a civilization far more advanced and interconnected than we currently comprehend. This journey will demand an open mind, a willingness to challenge established narratives, a keen eye for patterns that transcend time and culture. The answers, I assure you, are far more astonishing than any golden egg. Let us now turn our attention to the most iconic element of our tale, the beanstalk itself. A plant that grows with miraculous speed, reaching heights that pierce the clouds and connect the earthly realm with the world above. On the surface, it is a fantastical conceit, a magical bridge. But when we look across the vast tapestry of global mythology, a powerful and recurring archetype emerges that casts the beanstalk in an entirely new light: the cosmic axis, or the world tree. Almost every major ancient civilization independently developed a concept of a central pillar, a towering mountain, a mighty tree, or a cosmic river that connected different planes of existence: the underworld, the earthly realm, and the heavens. From the Norse Yggdrasil, the mighty ash tree whose roots reached into the underworld and whose branches supported the 9 realms, to the tree of life in Judeo-Christian tradition, connecting heaven and earth, this archetype is shockingly prevalent. Ancient Egyptians had the Jed pillar, representing stability and connecting the earth with the celestial abode of the gods. Mesoamerican culture spoke of a central world tree or mountain through which sacred energy flowed. The Siberian shamans ascended cosmic trees in their spiritual journeys to communicate with spirits. What does this near-universal recurrence tell us? It suggests that these were not mere poetic inventions, but profound attempts to explain and symbolize a fundamental aspect of reality as perceived by ancient peoples. The cosmic axis represents the spiritual and energetic center of the universe. It is the conduit through which divine energy descends and human consciousness ascends. It is the path for gods, spirits, and crucially, for humanity to bridge the gap between the mundane and the sacred. Now, consider the beanstalk and Jack and the beanstalk. It functions precisely as a cosmic axis. It is the direct vertical link between Jack's mundane, impoverished world and the extraordinary, wealthy, and powerful realm of the giant in the sky. It is the path of transcendence, the means by which a seemingly ordinary boy gains access to knowledge, riches, and power beyond his wildest dreams. The very act of climbing the beanstalk is a symbolic journey of initiation, a perilous ascent that mirrors the shamanic journey to other realms or the spiritual quest for enlightenment. The rapid growth of the beanstalk is also significant. While magical in a literal sense, symbolically, it might represent a sudden awakening, a rapid advancement, or a breakthrough in understanding or technology that allowed for this connection. In ancient mythologies, such rapid growths or transformations often signify divine intervention, powerful magic, or a profound shift in the cosmic order. Could it be that the magic beans represent not just a fantastical seed, but a form of knowledge, a technology, or an understanding of natural forces that allowed ancient peoples to achieve something truly remarkable? Something that, from our modern perspective, seems impossible. Furthermore, the beanstalk is inherently organic, a living pillar. This distinguishes it from artificial structures like towers or pyramids, though these too often symbolize a connection to the heavens. The organic nature might emphasize a connection to nature's inherent power, or perhaps a living technology that harnessed biological principles. It hints at a deep ecological understanding, where the earth itself is seen as a living entity capable of manifesting such a profound connection to the cosmos. The act of Jack cutting down the beanstalk at the end of the story, severing the link to the giant's realm, is equally profound when viewed through the lens of the cosmic axis. It represents a deliberate break, a a severing of a connection, perhaps a closure of a cosmic pathway, or the end of an era where such connections were commonplace. It might symbolize the loss of ancient knowledge, the sealing off of certain realms, or a deliberate act to protect humanity from a powerful, potentially dangerous influence residing in the upper world. This act transforms the Beanstalk from a bridge to a barrier, marking the transition from an age of open access to a world where such direct connections are no longer possible, or at least no longer easily accessible to humanity. The secret of the Beanstalk, therefore, is not merely that it grew tall, but that it represents humanity's eternal yearning, and perhaps historical ability, to reach beyond the mundane and touch the celestial. We've scaled the Beanstalk, understood its profound connection to the universal archetype of the cosmic axis. Now, it's time to confront the imposing figure at the summit, the giant. This character is far more than a simple ogre. He is a focal point for some of the most compelling and controversial interpretations of ancient history. Who is he, truly? And what does his presence in the sky world signify? In many mythologies, the beings who reside in the heavens, those of immense power and stature, are often referred to as gods, deities, or divine ancestors. They are the creators, the rulers, the bringers of knowledge and technology. Yet the giant in Jack's tale is not portrayed as benevolent. He's depicted as fearsome, possessive of vast wealth, and with a rather unsettling appetite for human flesh, or at least a strong inclination towards it, as evidenced by his famous Fi Fi Fo Fum rhyme. This duality, power and knowledge coupled with malevolence or dangers, a critical detail. Consider the common characteristics of mythical giants across various cultures. They are often associated with the pre-Diluvian world, with an age before the current order. They are sometimes depicted as primordial beings, direct descendants of the earth or the cosmos, possessing immense strength and often advanced capabilities. The Greek Titans, for instance, were powerful early deities, who were eventually overthrown by the Olympian gods. The Nephilim in biblical texts are described as mighty men of old, born of the sons of God and the daughters of men, a union that suggests an interface between two distinct types of beings. This brings us to a provocative hypothesis, one that has gained considerable traction in certain circles and offers a radical reinterpretation of ancient myths: the ancient astronaut theory. While controversial, it proposes that many of the gods worshipped by early civilizations were, in fact, technologically advanced beings from another planet who interacted with humanity, often influencing our development, passing on knowledge, and even interbreeding. Within this framework, the giant in Jack and the Beanstalk takes on an entirely different persona. He is not a magical creature of fantasy, but potentially a symbolic representation of one of these ancient visitors. Let's examine the clues. The giant lives above the clouds, a realm inaccessible to ordinary mortals without the aid of the extraordinary Beanstalk. This perfectly aligns with the idea of beings who arrived from the sky, who resided in orbital platforms, or who possessed flying craft that allowed them to live above the earth. His immense wealth, the bags of gold, the magical goose that lays golden eggs. The self-playing harp could be interpreted not as mere magical artifacts, but as advanced technologies or resources beyond human comprehension at the time. A goose that lays golden eggs could be a highly efficient, perhaps even alchemical manufacturing device. A self-playing harp might be a sophisticated data storage device, or a form of artificial intelligence capable of generating complex information or entertainment. To primitive humans, such technologies would appear undeniably magical. And what of the giant's appetite? The Fi Fi Fo Fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. This chilling detail, often softened in children's versions, suggests a dangerous, perhaps even predatory relationship. In the ancient astronaut paradigm, this could represent a less benevolent aspect of these visitors, perhaps a need for resources or a disregard for human life, or even a literal consumption of resources or beings, much like how we might consume livestock. It hints at a power dynamic where humanity was not always the dominant species, or was perhaps seen as a lesser form of life by these powerful entities. Proponents of this theory often point to the Anunnaki, figures from ancient Sumerian mythology, as prime candidates for these sky people. The Sumerian texts, far older than many biblical or Greek myths, describe beings who came down from the heavens to earth and interacted directly with humanity, teaching them agriculture, writing, and various skills.
Yes.
These texts even allude to a hierarchical structure, with powerful leaders and overseers, and a period when humanity served these beings. The giant, in this context, could be a symbolic vestige of these powerful, non-human entities who once walked among us. The giant's eventual defeat by Jacko-human boys, also significant. It represents humanity's eventual triumph over, or liberation from, these powerful entities. It signifies a shift in power, a reclaiming of autonomy. Jack doesn't merely escape, he actively confronts and overcomes the giant, severing the connection and taking the treasures for himself. This act can be seen as humanity inheriting the legacy of these beings, or perhaps reappropriating technologies and resources that were once held by them. This perspective challenges us to look beyond the surface narrative and consider the possibility that Jack and the Beanstalk is not just a whimsical tale, but a highly compressed, symbolic account of a critical epoch in human history and era when humanity interacted with beings of immense power and advanced capabilities, whose legacy shaped our civilization in ways we are only just beginning to comprehend. The narrative of Jack and the Beanstalk, particularly when viewed through the lens of the giant as a powerful non-human entity, naturally leads us to explore another profound and widely distributed theme in global mythology: the concept of a golden age followed by a great cataclysm and a subsequent retreat or disappearance of the gods. This isn't just a convenient plot device. It's a recurring motif found in the oral traditions and sacred texts of virtually every ancient culture. From the Hindu yugas to Hesiod's Ages of Man, the biblical flood, and indigenous American stories of world renewal, a golden age is typically described as a period of prosperity, peace, and abundance, often characterized by direct interaction between humans and divine or semi-divine beings. Knowledge was freely shared, life was easier, and humanity lived in harmony with nature and the cosmos. In the context of our Beanstalk narrative, Jack's mothers lament about their past wealth and the very existence of such incredible treasures in the giant's realm. Hints at a prior state of affluence or a different era. The goose that lays golden eggs and the self-playing harp aren't just trinkets. They are symbols of an abundance and technological marvel that seems utterly out of place in Jack's impoverished, post-Golden Age reality. These are echoes of a time when resources were limitless, or at least easily generated. What brings an end to such an idyllic period? It's almost universally, the myths speak of a great cataclysm. This could be a global flood, a meteor impact, intense volcanic activity, significant climate shifts, or even a divine punishment. The Jack and the Beanstalk story does not explicitly detail a cataclysm that destroyed the giant S realm. But the fact that Jack must ascend to it and that its treasures are inaccessible to the surface world implies a separation, a break from a previous state of affairs. Perhaps the cataclysm wasn't one of physical destruction, but rather a societal collapse or a deliberate retreat of the advanced beings. The act of Jack cutting down the beanstalk is highly symbolic in this context. It represents the severing of the connection between the human world and the upper, divine, or technologically advanced realm. This isn't merely Jack's personal victory. It's a profound metaphor for the end of an era. It marks the moment when direct interaction ceased, when the gods withdrew, or when the ancient knowledge and technologies became inaccessible to the vast majority of humanity. The beanstalk, once a bridge, becomes a symbol of a lost pathway, a reminder of what was once possible but is no longer. Why would the gods or advanced beings retreat? Mythologies offer various reasons: humanity's growing wickedness, a cosmic shift, a decision that humanity was ready to govern itself, or simply a need for these beings to move on. In the context of the ancient astronaut hypothesis, a cataclysm might have made Earth less hospitable for them, or they simply completed their mission and departed, leaving behind only the most rudimentary knowledge and fragmented memories. The giant's isolation above the clouds and Jack's solitary journey to his realm emphasizes this separation. There's no bustling celestial city, no widespread interaction. It's a solitary vestige of a forgotten age. The treasures Jack brings back, the golden eggs, the harp, the gold can be seen as the fragments of lost technology or knowledge left behind from this golden age. They are immensely valuable, Their true function or method of creation is largely forgotten by the surface world. Jack's possession of them signifies humanity's inheriting a legacy, but often without the full understanding or wisdom that accompanied it in the Golden Age. This reflects the common human experience after a major societal collapse, a scrambling to salvage and repurpose what remains of a more advanced previous era. Think of how medieval societies might have looked at Roman aqueducts. Incredible, inexplicable feats of engineering. Therefore, Jack and the Beanstalk can be interpreted as a miniature allegory for this grand cosmic drama. It begins with poverty and loss, features a rediscovery of the lost connection, a confrontation with the lingering power of the previous era, and finally, a symbolic break with that past, ushering in a new, human-centric age where the remnants of the past are reintegrated, but the direct cosmic link is severed. The tale becomes a cautionary echo, a reminder of a time when humanity was not alone, when the skies were perhaps less empty, and when the secrets of the universe were more directly accessible. It speaks to a deep, collective human memory of a time when our world was undeniably different, a time before the Great Forgetting. We have discussed the cosmic axis as a universal archetype, but let us now refine this concept by examining its more specific, tangible manifestations in ancient traditions, the sacred mountain, and the notion of a stargate or portal. While the beanstalk is a living plant, its function as a vertical conduit to another realm aligns perfectly with these more monumental, often stone, equivalents. Across the globe, towering peaks have been revered as dwelling places of the gods, points of communion between heaven and earth. Mount Olympus in Greece, home of the Olympians. Mount Meru, in Hindu and Buddhist cosmology, the center of the universe. The biblical Mount Sinai, where Moses received the Ten Commandments. These are not merely high places. They're conceptualized as the very nexus where the divine intersects with the human. They are often depicted as having hidden entrances, secret chambers, or ethereal pathways leading to other dimensions or planes of existence. Consider the megalithic structures erected by ancient peoples, the pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, the massive stone circles and aligned structures of Europe. These colossal edifices are almost universally aligned with celestial bodies or phenomena, and their very form, often tapering upwards, mimics the ascent to the heavens. Were these merely tombs or temples? Or were they attempts to recreate, in durable stone, the function of the cosmic axis, a place to draw down celestial energy, to communicate with the gods, or even to facilitate travel? When we apply this to the beanstalk, its function is strikingly similar to these sacred mountains and man-made structures. It is a direct vertical pathway. It is the means by which a seemingly ordinary individual can ascend to a realm far beyond the earthly sphere. This suggests that the beanstalk could be a symbolic representation of a form of ancient technology, or perhaps even a natural phenomenon that allowed for such traversal. This leads us to the more speculative, yet incredibly compelling concept of the stargate or portal. In science fiction, a stargate is a device or natural phenomenon that allows for instantaneous or rapid travel between distant points in space, or even between different dimensions. While this sounds like pure fantasy, the persistence of portal myths in ancient traditions is remarkable. Legends speak of specific caves, whirlpools, lakes, or mountains that serve as gateways to other worlds, to the land of the ancestors, or to the realm of the gods. These are not just metaphors. They are described as literal points of entry or exit. For instance, many indigenous cultures have stories of sky doors or rainbow bridges that allowed ancient beings to descend to Earth. Some ancient texts from Mesopotamia describe specific locations or structures as gates of the gods, or places where gods descended to rest. Could the beanstalk, then, be a symbolic representation of such a gate, naturally occurring, or perhaps even biologically engineered mechanism that acted as a localized, temporary portal to another dimension or a different orbital position? The idea that the magic beans are not just seeds, rather the key or trigger to activate such a portal, becomes a powerful notion. They are the ignition switch for the cosmic axis. What if these beans encoded a biological or even quantum mechanical secret that, when grown in the right conditions, created a localized distortion in spacetime, or generated an energy field that allowed for rapid ascent to an orbital platform or an extra-dimensional realm? The rapid growth of the beanstalk, literally reaching the heavens overnight, could be a highly compressed symbolic account of the instantaneous nature of such a portal-esque activation. You don't build a stargate over years, it's either on or off. The beanstalk turning on represents the portal opening, the danger associated with the giant's realm, and the ultimate severing of the beanstalk could reflect the dangers of accessing such portals without proper understanding or control. Perhaps these stargates were not always safe, or their use led to unforeseen consequences. The act of cutting down the beanstalk, therefore, is not just about defeating the giant, but about sealing off a dangerous gateway, protecting humanity from forces it could not comprehend or control. It's a deliberate decision to end an era of direct, potentially hazardous, cosmic interaction. This interpretation transforms Jack and the Beanstalk from a simple fantasy into a profound echo of humanity's ancient understanding of the cosmos, of the existence of other realms, and perhaps of forgotten technologies that allowed for interaction with them. The sacred mountain and the Stargate are not just abstract concepts. They are the symbolic bedrock upon which the Beanstalk narrative is built, hinting at a forgotten age, when the boundaries between worlds were far more porous than we currently imagine. Beyond the physical journey up the beanstalk and the encounter with the giant, Jack and the Beanstalk also teams with powerful symbolism related to wealth, transformation, and forbidden knowledge. The most obvious treasures Jack acquires are the bags of gold, the goose that lays golden eggs, and the self-playing harp. These are not just arbitrary magical items. They're deeply resonant archetypes within ancient esoteric traditions, particularly alchemy. Let's begin with the gold. In alchemy, gold is not merely a precious metal. It is the perfect metal, the purest form of matter, achieved through a process of purification and transformation. Alchemists sought to transmute base metals into gold, not just for monetary gain, but as a symbol of spiritual enlightenment and the perfection of the self. The alchemical gold represented the ultimate state of being, a complete harmony of spirit and matter. When Jack acquires bags of gold, is it just common currency? Or does it represent a deeper, more profound acquisition? If the giant represents an advanced, perhaps alien intelligence, then his gold might signify a form of perfected material, or a resource generated through processes unknown to humanity. The sheer quantity suggests a mastery over material creation that goes beyond simple mining. But the most compelling alchemical symbol is the goose that lays golden eggs. This isn't just about infinite wealth. It's about infinite creation. In alchemy, the philosophical egg was a central symbol, representing the vessel in which the magnum opus took place. The goose itself is an animal often associated with fertility, prophecy, and the feminine principle. Therefore, a goose laying golden eggs could be interpreted as a symbolic representation of a perfected alchemical process, a self-sustaining system that generates perfection from within itself. This could signify a technological process capable of transmuting elements, creating matter, or generating energy in a way that appears magical. It's a closed-loop system of abundance, a true philosopher's stone in action. Jack bringing this goose back to the human world isn't just about gaining riches. It's about potentially reintroducing a lost science, a forgotten method of creation that could alleviate poverty and revolutionize humanity's relationship with resources. Then, there is the self-playing harp. This is perhaps the most enigmatic of the treasures. A harp is a musical instrument, associated with harmony, creativity, and often with divine inspiration. A self-playing harp suggests autonomy, a sophisticated mechanism capable of generating complex output without direct human intervention. This immediately brings to mind concepts of artificial intelligence, automated systems, or even data storage and retrieval systems. In ancient contexts, music was often seen as a conduit to divine knowledge or a representation of cosmic order. A self-playing harp could be a device that processes information, generates complex patterns, or even transmits knowledge. It might be a symbolic representation of an advanced computer, a thinking machine that holds vast amounts of forbidden knowledge, information too powerful or dangerous for humanity to possess without proper understanding. The giant's distress at losing it suggests its immense value beyond mere entertainment. It might be his direct link to cosmic intelligence, or a database of his civilization's secrets. The act of Jack stealing these items, particularly the harp, suggests the acquisition of knowledge that was previously guarded or inaccessible. This theme of forbidden knowledge is pervasive in mythology. From Prometheus stealing fire from the gods to Eve eating from the tree of knowledge, often such knowledge is presented as a double-edged sword, powerful but potentially dangerous if misused. Jack's simple desire for wealth transforms into an unwitting acquisition of technologies and knowledge whose full implications he cannot grasp. By taking these treasures, Jack isn't just becoming rich, he's inadvertently reintroducing powerful, alchemical, and potentially high-tech elements into a world that has largely forgotten how to create or understand them. The golden eggs could symbolize sustainable energy, matter replication, or even genetic manipulation. The harp could hold blueprints, historical records, or scientific principles beyond our current comprehension. Ultimately, Jack and the Beanstalk can be seen as an allegory for humanity's rediscovery and reappropriation of the remnants of an advanced, possibly alchemical or technological civilization. It's a story about inheriting powerful tools and knowledge without necessarily understanding their full context. A theme that resonates deeply with archaeological finds that hint at technologies far beyond what was thought possible for ancient peoples. The secrets of the Beanstalk are not just about a giant and his gold, they're about the very nature of creation, transformation, the perilous pursuit of knowledge that lies beyond our conventional understanding. We've established the giant's role as a potent symbol of a powerful, perhaps non-human entity. Now, let us ground this figure in the very earth beneath our feet, specifically in the enigma of megalithic structures and the persistent global myths of giants building them in a pre-Diluvian world. This connection provides a tangible, albeit controversial, link between the fantastical elements of our tale and profound archaeological mysteries. Across every continent, we find colossal stone structures, the precision-cut, multi-ton blocks of Baalbek in Lebanon where single stones weigh over 1,000 tons. The intricate interlocking stonework of Puma Punku in Bolivia, featuring perfectly drilled holes and impossible angles. The massive moai of Easter Island. The precisely aligned stones of Stonehenge. And, of course, the enduring majesty of the Giza pyramids. Sheer scale, the engineering precision, and the astronomical alignments of these sites defy conventional explanations of how primitive societies, supposedly equipped only with copper tools and rudimentary understanding, could have constructed them. Mainstream archaeology often struggles to fully explain the methods and motivations behind these structures, leading to theories involving vast labor forces and ingenious yet unproven techniques. However, many ancient cultures themselves offer a different explanation: giants. From the Cyclops of Greek mythology, who built the mighty walls of Mycenae, to the Irish Fomorians, and the legendary figures who purportedly laid the foundations for Roman roads, the theme is remarkably consistent. Native American traditions speak of tall, powerful beings who roamed the earth before them, leaving behind monumental works. Even biblical narratives, such as the Book of Genesis, mention the Nephilim, mighty men of old, men of renown, often interpreted as giants, existing before the Great Flood. If we consider the giant in Jack and the Beanstalk in this light, he is not merely a resident of a cloud kingdom, but a potential echo of these legendary megalithic builders. His immense size, his implied strength, and his vast wealth align perfectly with the characteristics attributed to these mythical constructors. Could the giant's castle above the clouds be a symbolic representation of an orbital platform, a high-altitude base, or simply a metaphor for structures so immense they seem to touch the sky? Or perhaps it reflects the perspective of primitive humans looking up at truly enormous ancient constructions. The Phi Phi Pho Phum rhyme, often interpreted as the giant literally sniffing out a human, takes on a chilling significance if these giants were indeed real. Physical beings who preceded or coexisted with early humanity, it hints at a time when humans were perhaps a source of sustenance or a subservient population for these larger, more powerful entities. The idea of giant overlords manipulating early human societies is a recurring motif in esoteric interpretations of ancient history. Furthermore, the connection to a pre-flood world is crucial. Many myths of giants place them firmly in an antediluvian age, an era that ended with a global cataclysm. If the beanstalk represents a connection to a remnant of this pre-flood civilization, then Jack's journey is not just upward but backward in time, accessing a hidden pocket of an elder world. The giant's castle becomes a relic of a drowned or forgotten civilization, preserved above the devastation. The act of Jack stealing the treasures, the gold, the goose, the harp, can be seen as humanity reclaiming lost knowledge and technology from this antecedent civilization. It's a symbolic plundering of the legacy of the giants, allowing humans to re-establish a form of power or prosperity in the post-cataclysmic world. The cutting down of the beanstalk then signifies the complete severance of this direct link to the giant era, marking the definitive end of their influence and the beginning of the human-dominated age. Albeit an age where the true extent of prior civilizations is largely forgotten, leaving behind only tantalizing hints in the form of monumental ruins and fragmented myths. Thus, Jack and the Beanstalk can be viewed as a symbolic echo of a profound historical memory, a time when immense beings, possibly the architects of the world's inexplicable megalithic structures, roamed or controlled the earth, and whose eventual disappearance or withdrawal marked a critical turning point in human history, leaving behind only their monumental, silent testaments in stone. We've explored the beanstalk as a cosmic axis and a potential stargate. But let's now peel back another layer of symbolism, returning to the very origin of the entire narrative, the magic beans. These seemingly innocuous objects, capable of such miraculous growth, carry a profound symbolic weight that resonates deeply with ancient understandings of creation, life itself, and even a universal genetic code. In virtually every ancient culture, the seed is not just a biological component. It is a powerful metaphor for potential, for creation, and for the essence of life itself. From the smallest grain of sand to the vastness of the cosmos, the principle of a contained blueprint, ready to unfurl into complex form, is ubiquitous. Sacred texts often begin with a singular seed or an egg from which the universe unfolds. The concept of a universal seed, or a cosmic egg, from which all existence springs, is a fundamental part of many creation myths. The magic beans of Jack's story are extraordinary, not just for their size, but for their latent power. They are a compressed form of immense energy and information, capable of manifesting a massive structure overnight. This incredible property aligns with ancient esoteric beliefs that certain seeds contain the complete blueprint for complex creation. They are the ultimate form of potential energy waiting for the right conditions to be activated. Now, let's consider this through a more scientific, yet still ancient lens. The genetic code. We know today that DNA is the blueprint for life, a microscopic information storage system that dictates the growth and characteristics of every living organism. What if the magic beans are a symbolic representation of a form of advanced genetic engineering or a highly sophisticated biological technology? Imagine a civilization, perhaps the giants, possessing the knowledge to manipulate DNA or genetic material on an unprecedented scale. The beans could be bioengineered constructs, designed to grow rapidly under specific conditions, perhaps even responding to a specific energetic frequency or environmental trigger. The beanstalk itself, then, be a manifestation of this advanced biological engineering. A living, rapidly growing structure tailored for a specific purpose, like connecting distant points. This concept finds echoes in various mythologies that speak of gods or advanced beings seeding life on Earth, or creating humanity through direct manipulation. The idea that life itself, or certain forms of life, are the result of conscious design rather than purely natural evolution, is a persistent fringe theory that gains symbolic strength here. The beanstalk could be a designer plant, a testament to a biotechnological prowess that has been lost to current human understanding. Furthermore, the beans could represent a universal genetic code or a fundamental principle of creation that links all life forms and even the cosmos itself. Ancient philosophies, from Hermeticism to Hinduism, often spoke of an underlying unity in all existence, a singular vibration or blueprint that pervaded everything. The beanstalk's ability to connect realms from Earth to a sky world could be a metaphor for this interconnectedness, all stemming from a singular seed of universal information. The very act of planting the beans, a simple act of placing them in the earth, contrasts sharply with the monumental outcome. This highlights the idea that sometimes the greatest power or transformation comes from the smallest, most fundamental components. It hints at an understanding of leveraging subtle forces to achieve grand results, a core principle in many ancient mystical traditions. The destruction of the beanstalk at the end, the cutting down of this biologically engineered marvel, could symbolize the loss or suppression of this ancient biological knowledge. Perhaps the secret of the magic beans was deemed too dangerous, too powerful, or simply became lost to the cataclysms that erased the advanced civilization of the giants. It implies a deliberate severing of humanity's access to such profound biotechnological capabilities, forcing us to rebuild and understand life through a different, perhaps more laborious path. Thus, the magic beans are not mere fantastical legumes. They are powerful symbolic containers of ancient wisdom. They point to a forgotten era of advanced biological understanding, a time when the very fabric of life, its growth, and its connection to the cosmos, was perhaps manipulated or understood in ways that are now only dimly remembered in the lingering echoes of our most cherished fairy tales. No problem, let's keep the expert scriptwriter flowing. Visual. Transition to a montage of classic hero's journey imagery. A call to adventure, crossing a threshold, facing trials, mentors, transformation, return. Interweave these with moments from Jack's story. Looking up at the stalk, climbing, hiding, escaping, music becomes more epic and triumphant. While we've delved deep into the esoteric and historical layers of Jack and the Beanstalk, it's crucial to also acknowledge the story's powerful resonance with one of humanity's most enduring narrative structures, the archetypal hero's journey. Coined by mythologist Joseph Campbell, this universal monomyth posits that nearly all great stories, from ancient epics to modern blockbusters, follow a similar pattern of transformation and enlightenment. And Jack, despite his humble beginnings, is a quintessential hero on this profound symbolic quest. Let's break down Jack's journey through this lens. Firstly, there is the call to adventure. Jack and his mother are impoverished. Their last cow, their lifeline, must be sold. This crisis, this state of dire need, is Jack's call. It forces him out of his mundane world and into the extraordinary. The seemingly foolish exchange of the cow for magic beans is his initial, unwitting acceptance of this call. It's an act of faith, or perhaps desperation, that sets everything in motion. Next, the crossing the threshold. The beanstalk itself serves as the literal and metaphorical threshold. It is the boundary between the ordinary world below and the extraordinary, dangerous, and transformative world above. Jack's decision to climb it, to leave the known for the unknown, is his definitive crossing. He leaves behind his old identity, his old problems, to face something far greater. This ascent is a symbolic death of the old self and a birth into a new potential. Once across the threshold, Jack enters a world filled with tests, allies, and enemies. The giant is the primary antagonist, the shadow figure representing overwhelming power and danger. The giant's wife initially acts as a temporary helper, providing shelter and warning. Jack's repeated infiltration of the giant's castle represents a series of trials. He must be cunning, brave, and quick-witted to survive. Each visit tests his resolve, his resourcefulness, and his ability to face immense fear. He isn't a muscular warrior, but an unassuming boy who must rely on his intelligence and stealth. The treasures Jack acquires, the gold, the goose, the harpar, not just material wealth. They are the boon of his journey. In the hero's journey, the boon is a gift, a magical item, or a new understanding that the hero gains from their ordeal. This boon is meant to benefit the hero's community or the world. For Jack, these treasures represent the restoration of prosperity, the alleviation of suffering for his family, and, as we've discussed, potentially lost knowledge or technology. They are the tangible results of his transformation. Finally, there is the return with the elixir. Jack descends the beanstalk, bringing his treasures, but crucially, he is not the same boy who climbed up. He has faced death, confronted overwhelming power, and emerged victorious. His return is a signal of his transformation from a naive poor boy into a resourceful, prosperous, and brave young man. The act of cutting down the beanstalk is the final act of this return, severing the link to the dangerous, extraordinary world and integrating the boon into his ordinary life. It signifies a new beginning, where the lessons learned from the extraordinary are applied to the mundane, elevating it. The hero's journey framework elevates Jack and the Beanstalk, from a simple children's story to a powerful allegory for personal growth and spiritual initiation. It speaks to the universal human experience of confronting challenges, overcoming obstacles, and emerging transformed. Every time we face a daunting task, step into the unknown, or seek to better ourselves, we are, in a symbolic sense, climbing our own beanstalk. Furthermore, this archetypal structure suggests that the story's endurance isn't just due to its entertainment value, but its deep psychological resonance. It taps into our innate understanding of human struggle, triumph, and the cyclical nature of life's challenges. Journey is our journey writ large and imbued with ancient symbols, reminding us that even the most improbable adventures can lead to profound self-discovery and the restoration of a lost golden age, both within ourselves and in the world around us. As we continue our exploration of the ancient secrets woven into Jack and the Beanstalk, let's turn our attention to an often overlooked, yet immensely significant symbolic connection: the serpent or dragon archetype and its profound relationship to the cosmic axis. While not explicitly present in the modern narrative as a character, the very form of the beanstalk, a massive, spiraling vine reaching skyward, carries deep serpentine connotations, hinting at a far older and far more potent cosmological understanding. The serpent or dragon is one of the most ancient and universally significant archetypes in human mythology. Far from being merely a creature of evil, it embodies profound dualities: creation and destruction, wisdom and chaos, fertility and death, earth and sky. Across countless cultures, serpents and dragons are associated with primordial waters, the underworld, and crucially with the very fabric of the cosmos. Consider the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, symbolizing cycles, eternity, and the unity of all things. Or the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerican traditions, a deity of creation, knowledge, and the bringing of civilization. In ancient Egypt, the Urius cobra was a symbol of divine authority and protection. In Asia, dragons are revered as benevolent bringers of rain, wisdom, and cosmic energy, often depicted ascending to the heavens or guarding sacred pearls. What links these powerful symbols to our beanstalk? Many ancient depictions of the cosmic axis, or world tree, are entwined with serpents or dragons. The Norse Grusula, for example, is guarded by the serpent Nes, GGR at its roots, and the Midgard serpent encircling the world. These serpents often represent the vital energy, the kundalini-like force, that animates the cosmic structure and facilitates movement between realms. The beanstalk, with its spiraling growth, its immense height, and its connection to a celestial realm, strongly echoes the imagery of an ascending serpent or dragon. It is a living, energetic pillar, a cosmic thread that binds worlds. In many shamanic traditions, the journey to other realms involves climbing a spiritual ladder or flying on the back of a powerful spirit animal, often serpentine in nature. The beanstalk embodies this very journey, a vertical ascent, guided by a living conduit of power. Furthermore, serpents are often associated with knowledge and wisdom, sometimes forbidden or hidden wisdom. The biblical serpent in Eden, for instance, offers knowledge that changes humanity's destiny. If the beanstalk is a conduit to ancient knowledge and technology, then its serpentine nature reinforces this connection to profound, perhaps dangerous wisdom. There's also a subtle, yet intriguing astronomical connection. Many ancient cultures observed celestial serpents or dragons in the night sky. Constellations like Draco were the perceived movements of comets and meteors that left fiery trails across the heavens. These celestial phenomena were often seen as cosmic messengers or indicators of significant events. Could the rapidly growing beanstalk piercing the sky will also be a symbolic memory of a spectacular celestial event, perhaps a comet that brought specific elements or knowledge to Earth? or whose trajectory was perceived as a cosmic bridge. The very act of Jack cutting down the beanstalk, severing this cosmic thread, can be interpreted as a symbolic act of slaying the dragon. In many hero myths, the hero must confront and overcome a serpentine or draconic force to achieve victory or bring about a new order. By cutting the beanstalk, Jack isn't just defeating the giant. He's metaphorically severing a primordial connection, ending an era where humanity was directly linked to the vast, powerful, and sometimes dangerous cosmic energies represented by the ascending serpent. It is a final act of separation from a pre-human-dominated cosmic order. This interpretation adds immense depth to the familiar story, elevating the beanstalk from a simple magical plant to a powerful, multi-layered symbol of cosmic energy, ancient knowledge, humanity's evolving relationship with the fundamental forces of the universe. The lingering presence of the serpent archetype reminds us that beneath the surface of our most cherished tales lie profound insights into humanity's oldest beliefs about creation, connection, and the very structure of reality itself. Thus far, our journey up the beanstalk has led us to cosmic connections, ancient builders, and forgotten technologies. But to truly understand the holistic tapestry of Jack and the Beanstalk, we must turn our gaze downwards, to its very roots, and explore the profound connection to the sacred feminine, the Great Mother, and the Earth's inherent wisdom. While the tale primarily features male protagonists and antagonists, the very foundation of its magic lies in the potent act of planting, growth, and the generative power of the earth itself. In countless ancient cultures, the earth was revered as a living, conscious entity, Gaia, Pachamama, Terramata. She was the ultimate provider, the source of all life, growth, and sustenance. This reverence was often embodied in the archetype of the Great Mother Goddess, a universal figure representing fertility, creation, wisdom, and the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. She is the nurturer, the womb of all existence, and the ultimate source of magical power. How does this connect to our story? The magic beans are planted directly into the earth. It is the earth, through its inherent life force, that allows for the miraculous, overnight growth of the colossal beanstalk. This isn't a spell cast in a sterile laboratory. It's a direct harnessing of telluric energy, the deep, generative power residing within the planet. The beanstalk is thus a direct manifestation of the Earth's vital energy, a monumental act of fertility and growth, driven by the planet itself. Consider the role of Jack's mother. While often portrayed as a figure of exasperation, she represents the earthly, practical aspect of the feminine. She is connected to the land, to the sustenance of her family, and to the traditional wisdom of planting and harvesting. Her initial desire for Jack to sell the cow is born of necessity, of maintaining the physical well-being of her household. It is her connection to the earth and its resources that sets the stage for the beanstalk's planting. The beanstalk itself, as a living, growing entity, draws its power from this feminine principle of creation. It is a plant, organic and rooted, echoing the cycles of nature, the flow of life, and the deep, silent wisdom held within the earth. In many esoteric traditions, specific plants are seen as conduits of powerful telluric or cosmic energy, power plants that can bridge realms. The beanstalk embodies this perfectly. It is a vital living artery of the planet, reaching for the heavens. The connection to the sacred feminine also extends to the giant's wife. Though she is under the dominion of the malevolent giant, she provides help and sanctuary to Jack. She is the nurturing female presence, offering a degree of protection within a dangerous, masculine-dominated realm. Her actions, however limited, represent a lingering spark of compassion or ancient wisdom that contrasts with the giant's brute force and greed. She might symbolize the corrupted or suppressed feminine principle within the sky world, still capable of good, but constrained. Furthermore, the very act of gardening or planting was a sacred act in many ancient societies, often overseen by goddesses of agriculture and fertility. It was a direct communion with the earth's generative forces. The magic beans could be seen as an ancient secret related to bioengineering or superagriculture, a gift from a time when humanity had a deeper, more profound connection to the earth's magical properties, perhaps facilitated by beings who understood these secrets more intimately. The story, therefore, subtly underlines the fundamental truth that all growth, all abundance, And indeed, all significant ascent must be firmly rooted in the wisdom and generative power of the earth and the sacred feminine. Without the planting, without the connection to the fundamental creative force, the beanstalk could not exist. Jack's journey is only possible because of this underlying, silent, and immensely powerful foundation. When Jack finally cuts down the beanstalk, he severs the direct physical connection to the giant's realm. But he brings the treasures back to Earth, where they can be integrated into the human realm. The gold, the goose, the harp, these become part of the earthly prosperity, rooted in the land and the efforts of humanity. This act can be interpreted as humanity taking responsibility for its own destiny and prosperity, utilizing the gifts from above, but grounding them firmly in the sacred wisdom of the earth and the generative power of the feminine principle. We have journeyed through millennia, from the pre-human age to the dawn of civilization, deciphering the hidden codes within Jack and the Beanstalk. What began as a simple children's tale has revealed itself to be a profound repository of ancient memory, a fragmented blueprint for a history far richer, more complex, and more astonishing than conventional narratives allow. Our final task is to understand what this recalibration of history means and what role such myths play in our collective future. The consistent patterns we've identified, the cosmic axis, the great cataclysm, the giant as a non-human entity, the alchemical gold, the sacred feminine, are not isolated coincidences. They are the recurring motifs of a universal language of symbolism, echoing across cultures and epochs, suggesting a shared human experience that transcends geographical and chronological boundaries. This strongly implies either a common origin for these foundational myths, a widespread dissemination of early human knowledge, or perhaps a fundamental, shared encounter with similar phenomena or entities that profoundly shaped our ancestral consciousness. If Jack and the Beanstalk carries echoes of megalithic builders, advanced lost technologies, and interactions with beings of immense power, then it challenges the very foundations of our understanding of human prehistory. It forces us to question, were there indeed highly advanced civilizations before our recorded history, perhaps predating the last ice age, whose remnants are preserved in myth and stone? Did humanity interact with non-human intelligences, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial, who profoundly influenced our development, offering knowledge that we later lost or corrupted? Are our fairy tales not merely fiction, but symbolic histories, carefully encoded to preserve information that was too dangerous, too complex, or too profound to be directly transmitted through generations of oral tradition and subsequent literal interpretation? This revaluation of myth is not about dismantling cherished beliefs, but enriching them. It's about opening our minds to the possibility that our ancestors possessed a deeper, perhaps more intuitive understanding of the cosmos and their place within it than we often give them credit for. They spoke in metaphor, in allegory, and in symbols, because these were the most effective ways to transmit complex truths across vast spans of time, surviving societal collapse, linguistic shifts, and deliberate obscuration. What is the future of such myths, now that we begin to unlock their deeper meanings? Firstly, they serve as a bridge to our ancestral consciousness. By understanding the layers of symbolism, we can reconnect with the wisdom, the fears, and the aspirations of those who came before us. This connection can provide a richer sense of identity and purpose, reminding us that our present is deeply rooted in an extraordinary past. Secondly, they act as cautionary tales and guiding lights. The giant's greed, the dangers of unbridled power, the severing of the cosmic link. These are warnings about the consequences of imbalance, technological hubris, or the loss of spiritual connection. Conversely, Jack's courage, his resourcefulness, and his ability to bring boons back to his community offer a pathway forward. The pursuit of knowledge, integration of ancient wisdom with modern understanding, and the ultimate triumph of the human spirit. Thirdly, they may hold keys to future discoveries. If the magic beans symbolize advanced biotechnology, or the harp represents forgotten information systems, then these myths could be subtle prompts, inspiring future generations to look for scientific or technological breakthroughs in unexpected places. Perhaps by re-examining the magical from a new scientific perspective. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, by recognizing the hidden depths within tales like Jack and the Beanstalk, we embark on a journey of collective self-discovery. It encourages us to look at the world around us, at ancient ruins, at unexplained phenomena, at our own dreams and subconscious narratives, with renewed curiosity and a willingness to challenge established paradigms. The 5,000-year-old secret is not just about a giant or a beanstalk, it's about us. It's about our shared human potential, our capacity for both destruction and creation, and our eternal quest to understand our origins and our ultimate destiny. The story, once confined to the nursery, now beckons us to re-examine the very foundations of our civilization, inviting us to imagine a past as extraordinary as any fairy tale, and a future waiting to be unlocked by the secrets of yesterday. The beanstalk may be cut, but the path to discovery remains open for those willing to climb. And so, our epic ascent up the symbolic beanstalk comes to a close. We began with a familiar children's story, a whimsical narrative we thought we knew. Yet, by applying the lenses of comparative mythology, ancient history, and esoteric symbolism, we have unveiled a tale of astonishing depth and relevance. We've seen Jack and the Beanstalk transformed from simple fantasy into a vibrant, multi-layered tapestry woven from humanity's oldest memories. Of a golden age of powerful, perhaps non-human entities, of cataclysmic events, and of the enduring quest for knowledge and self-mastery. The humble beanstalk became the cosmic axis, a bridge to lost realms and forgotten technologies. The fearsome giant, a potential echo of ancient overlords, or a symbolic representation of powers beyond our current comprehension. The golden treasures, not mere riches, but fragments of an advanced science. An alchemy of creation inherited from a mysterious past. And Jack himself, a timeless hero, navigating the perilous path of initiation, bringing back not just wealth, but the very seeds of a renewed future for humanity. This journey is a powerful reminder that truth often lies hidden in plain sight, encoded in the stories we dismiss as mere entertainment. These myths are the whispers of our ancestors, carrying vital information across the chasm of time. They challenge us to expand our perceptions, to question the accepted narratives, and to open our minds to the possibility of a human history far grander and more enigmatic than we currently imagine. The 5,000-year-old secret behind Jack and the Beanstalk is not just one secret, but a tapestry of intertwined mysteries, beckoning us to continue the exploration. It invites us to see the world, and indeed ourselves, through a new lens, a lens that recognizes the profound interconnectedness of myth, history, and the endless potential of the human spirit. Thank you for joining me on this extraordinary climb. May your own future ascents be as enlightening